So, in recognition of National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, I knew I wanted to post some sort of vlog about it. I just wasn't sure how in depth I wanted to go and what I wanted to speak about and what I wanted to really say. Um, and to be honest, I still don't know, but I feel that it's important that I say something. Um, I am now 23 years old, and I have suffered with both anorexia and bulimia nervosa. I have been through all sorts of treatment from inpatient to partial to, outpatient and everything when it comes to treatment. And I think that maybe what I'll start with is the three reasons that it was hardest for me to reach out for help when suffering with both disorders. The first reason was I truly felt that I didn't know if I was sick. And I didn't know if I was sick, meaning obviously I knew the behaviors that I was doing and the way that I was feeling and the things that I were thinking weren't normal in like a clinical standard type sense. But the fact that if I wasn't 70 pounds or I wasn't 200 pounds or I wasn't in a hospital, how did I know that I was actually sick? And I am not a doctor, and I'm not gonna, try to be, but one thing that I will say is that the fact that I had to sit there and analyze and say, am I sick? Is this a problem? Is this okay? Is this normal? That right there is something that looking back I realize was a very, very large indication that I wasn't okay. And just because you're not X amount of weight or under or over, whatever your goal or ambition is, having feelings where you can't look at food as a means of survival and you look at it as control or a challenge or a punishment or anything other than nutrition to energize and stabilize your body, it's probably worth talking to someone. And there are various different things. There's always going to be someone more sick than you. There's always going to be someone less sick than you. There's always going to be someone that weighs more or less than you, that etc. But what's important is how you feel and how you're able to handle your own thoughts and whether or not you can wake up every day and you can look in the mirror and you can be okay with who you are. So, okay, sorry for the dramatic point, but the question was, am I sick enough? So, the second reason that I truly feel that I struggled to want to ask for help or know if I need help was I didn't know how people would treat me. I didn't know if my family would think, oh, she just wants attention because everything around her is so chaotic and she needs her footing and she needs her voice and she needs her placehold, so she's just going to say this to get our attention, or she's just doing this to get our attention and pull away from these other things that we're distracted from. And eating disorder as well, yes, they're a cry for help, in my opinion at least, are in no way a means of attention. And it's someone that's struggling and it's a symptom of a deeper rooted problem, but it's not a means of I just want you to look at me or pay attention to me. It's I need help. The third reason that I probably didn't ask or want to go to anyone to get better, I guess, or help, was because I didn't know if I wanted to get better. I didn't know if I wanted to change the behaviors that I was doing. I didn't know if I wanted to stop exercising as much as I was, throwing up as much as I was, because while all of those things in a sense made me feel scared and trapped, they also made me feel powerful, and they made me feel strong, and they made me feel, sadly in a sense, superior. Not so much to one person or one thing, but superior from the version of myself that I had used to be. And I didn't know if I was willing to give that up. I didn't know if I was willing to give up this secret and this thing that I created within myself where I felt I was the only person I could trust. And if I divulge what I was doing and how I was acting and the way that I was feeling to someone else, I was giving up that bond of trust I had made with myself. And that probably sounds weird or awkward, and it probably should, because in a sense it's not healthy, but I just couldn't make the decision that I wanted to stop doing this. And yes, I knew it was harmful, and yes, I knew that it could kill me, and I knew, and I'd done the research, but I didn't know if I could let it go. I didn't know if I could let go this new identity that I had made for myself, and this new, as I said, trust that I had made with myself, if I could break it. So those were probably the three biggest things that prevented me from speaking out sooner. Three things that I want to say have been huge triggers for me when people have thought that they were helping or aiding me. Um, the first thing is whenever someone sees, which this may just be a problem particular to me, but when someone sees, you probably can't see it here because I'm cold right now, but across my knuckles I have, which I post about, um, or I rather had, what is called Russell syndrome, and it's from repetitively induced vomiting, and I have abrasions, and I actually have scar tissue from repeated abrasions and ripping open the skin and ripping open the scars, constantly vomiting, for lack of a better word, and my skin does this thing where when I'm hot or I'm warm, any scar that I've had, the scar doesn't necessarily come back, but I'll get like red and blotchy in my skin, not where there's scars but everywhere, like on my chest and everywhere. And whenever I'm hot or anxious, it'll get red here. And like the indents of my teeth and the legitimate scars won't necessarily show, but it'll get red and blotchy. And the second someone sees that, whether it's family or friends or anyone that really knows that this was something for me, instead of sitting me down and ever saying like, look, I've noticed this, I just want to check in, I want to make sure you're okay, it's always been, well, what is that? Well, are you throwing up again? And it's been so direct that even if I was, my first response would be no, like leave me alone. It would just automatically, I would go on the defensive, and even if I wasn't okay, I would lie and say everything that I possibly could think of to pretend that I was, because now I don't trust that person, now they're invading me, now I feel like they're judging me, and I don't want any part of it. So that's definitely something that people have done wrong. To build off that point, the way that people have come at me in general has really, really been hard. For example, even my employers will just say, well, why won't you just eat? Or you have to eat, or this. Or, you know, just don't throw up. Or you're going to throw up in my house if you eat. Or they just, people are so blunt, and I don't know if this is just with me or if this is something that other people have experienced, but sometimes with me, even still to this day, it's very, very hard for me to be comfortable eating around people. It's very difficult. And when people make comments like, you know, you should just eat, or, you know, I don't even know how else to elaborate on it, but they just make comments that are so blunt, and I think they say it because they don't understand, and they say it because they're not educated, and they say it because they generally care, and they just, to them it's just eat, or just have just this, or just that, or just don't throw up this time, just walk around the house 50 times instead, and they think that they're being helpful, and they say things that are just very hurtful. So just from a general standpoint, I think if you know anyone, whether it's an employee, whether it's your child, your niece, your nephew, your sibling, your anything, and they are struggling and suffering with an eating disorder, or you think they might be, the biggest thing that I can stress is to please, please, please educate yourself on it, because it's not an easy fix. If it was, people would fix it and people wouldn't have eating disorders. And it's an actual disease and it's a disorder and it's something that people struggle with, truly, and they can't cure on their own. So if before you just speak what is on your mind, please research. There are various websites out there. NEDAWEEK is great. NEDAWareness.org is great. You could literally just Google, what to say on various websites. There's actual employer toolkits, teacher toolkits, parent toolkits, coach toolkits on how to approach if you think someone has it, if you know someone has it, what to say, what not to say. And most people think that they care enough to say just eat, but if they do care and they are concerned, and if you're one of those people watching that you feel that way, then please care enough to educate yourself on the do's and don'ts, because sometimes what you say can be a lot more harmful. The third thing, I guess, that I really felt I had to deal with and face is, while I was younger, I feel that I had, sorry, my legs are falling asleep. Um, I felt that I was able to hide my anorexia well, because my family members in general are skinny and they're athletic and yada yada yada. Um, when I was dealing with bulimia, because I wasn't thin, no one thought that I was sick. And I remember issues where the first time that my parents were ever brought in, and this was, I was still underweight, and however, I wasn't at a point where I needed to be put inpatient. And they were brought in and they were told that I had an eating disorder. Their first response was, well, why isn't she skinny? And it was something that I don't think that they even remember saying, but it was something that cut me and triggered me and hurt me and just caused me to downward spiral so much. And what people don't understand is there are all sorts of eating disorders. It's not just anorexia and bulimia. And EDNOS is the classification that they make and then they add things to and then they take away and they alter, but that's still very real. And there's binge eating disorder, and just because you don't look sicker than a model in a magazine or one of those few commercials that you may have seen where someone is 60 pounds and dying and can't walk, does not mean you don't A, have an eating disorder, does not mean B, that you are not sick, and does not mean C, that it is not critical and that you could not die at any moment and are not in need of immediate treatment. So I just feel there's such a stigma, especially suffering with bulimia far longer than anorexia, um, of if you're not underweight and you don't drastically look underweight, you're not sick, or you're not in danger, or your health is not in danger, or it is not serious. And it's just something that has actually made my illness, I've used it as a trigger, I think, and I've taken it as a trigger, and it has been a trigger to keep repeating myself. Um, when people sat there and said, well, like, oh, you're this weight, so that's okay. Like, I've actually even had doctors that have said that to me. They've said, like, do your thighs touch? Okay, well, you're normal weight, or you're overweight, or, oh, okay, well, you want to be this weight? Okay, well, it's not as bad as, so yeah, like, that's fine. And it's not fine, and it's not okay, and it's sad to see not only the people that surround you that are so uneducated, but to see the doctors that I've personally dealt with that are that uneducated, and have they have said, like, let's get to the root of the problem, let's, talk about this, let's get you in with this doctor, let's work on this, why do you feel this way? It probably wouldn't have triggered me so much, but when people sat there and said, oh, well, that's okay, or, oh, you're not this, or, oh, you're not that, it made me feel, oh, well, A, I'm really not that sick, so I can just keep doing what I'm doing and fuck what, pardon my language, but fuck what everyone says, and I'm not going to die yet, so I can keep doing this until I get to where I want to be, and then if people worry then I'll deal with it then. Or, oh, so you don't really think I'm sick, so you don't care about me. So all the shame and the fear that I felt by reaching out and coming to you and talking to you, whoever it is, a doctor, a teacher, a parent, a sibling, a friend, everything that it took for me to come out and say this to you, you're telling me you don't think it's a big deal. You don't think this was hard for me at all. You think I'm fine. So you know what? Now, again, fuck you. Either A, I'm going to show you I'm not fine, or B, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing because you've just told me that it's okay. And you've told me it's okay because I'm not as skinny as you think I should be. So those are three things that have personally been really triggers for me. They've been hard for me. They've really caused me to struggle and backtrack in my recovery. And there are things that I really want to make people aware of. Three things, just to finish this up, because this is becoming a really long video, that have really, really, really helped me, that people have done. When someone has sat me down, which I honestly think in over 10 years of dealing with this has only happened maybe once. When someone sat me down and said, whatever you want to say, whatever you don't want to say, is fine, but I want to hear you. Not what you're analyzing, not what you're feeling, not what you're planning to do. I want to hear you, your voice, and how you feel in this moment. Someone just wanting to know, aside from the war I'm already dealing with and I continue to deal with every single day, they didn't care. They just wanted to hear me. And I at least continuously lost myself throughout those years of struggling of, do I want this? Do I want that? Am I this person? Am I that person? Should I let people see me like this? Should I let them see me like that? And for someone to just be like, I don't care about any of that. I want you. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you feel. That meant everything to me. The second thing is when someone sat down and I actually used this argument against myself and, well, against what I just said, and I was sat down and I was told that when I was in college, actually, Moravian, and I was actually told that if I didn't stop what I was doing, I was going to die, and I was deemed physically and mentally in, incapable, to put it nicely, and that I needed to seek help or I couldn't keep going in classes and everything that I was doing. And when someone finally stopped me and halted me like that, when I was overweight, that meant something to me. Because for the first time, I strove to go back to anorexia, and that's sick and that's horrible, but that's honest. Like, I wanted to go back to being able to need nothing, to want nothing, to just be perfect and organized, and I was a mess. And for the first time, someone saw how hurt I was, how much of a mess I was, and it had nothing to do with the fact that I was underweight. I didn't need to be underweight for them to know I was in trouble, that I was sick, that I wasn't okay. And the fact that they recognized that and they stopped me and they stopped my life. And it scared me and I was angry and I was upset. But looking back, had they not have done that, I don't think I would be here right now. And they convinced me to drop the semester and to go into an inpatient hospital, and I did, and it was the best decision that I ever could have made because I wouldn't have made it. Um, so just to have someone, as I said earlier, it was a trigger for me to have people that constantly didn't recognize you don't have to be underweight to be sick. So when I finally had someone, when I was overweight, realize that I was still sick and I still had an eating disorder and I still wasn't okay, it meant a lot to me because people not seeing that was something that I constantly used to keep fueling my behavior. And the last thing is really just, and maybe this is me and maybe this is weird, but I really just wish that the people that had questions or the people that claim that they care would just sit me down and say, how are you doing with this? Or why do you feel this way? Or what led you to this? Like, if people are concerned, I don't want people to just say, like, oh, she just doesn't eat, or oh, she just throws up, or oh, she just runs, or oh, she's just over. Like, if people genuinely care, I want them to sit me down and I want them to say, like, I don't want to be intrusive, and if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to, but this is my question. Like, to me, that's how someone shows me that they care. And I think that if more people had done that along the way, it would have been really helpful for me, because what I really needed was someone to, obviously I really needed someone to care, or to feel like someone really cared, but more so I was looking for someone that wanted to not just understand eating disorders and the disorder I was struggling with that I couldn't even understand, but I was looking for someone that could care about me enough to want to research it, to want to look it up, to want to understand why I couldn't just do this, to want to understand why I was the way I was, to want to understand why I was hurting so badly and why it was so hard for me. And no one has. I don't think they still have. And everyone has their own lives, and I don't expect their lives to stop because I've struggled, but when I can look back on 10 years plus of hospitals and treatment, etc., and not have one real person in my life that has researched it and ever sat me down and said, like, can you explain to me why you do what you do, why you feel you have to do what you do? Not from a clinical standpoint, from a personal standpoint, like, to not feel that I have someone that cares enough and wants to understand why I'm struggling enough in 10 years. To me, that's sad. So, I don't know, that completely went somewhere I didn't think it was going to, but I guess that's the point of this, and this is all jumbled, and it's random, and it's probably slightly incoherent because I don't care enough to watch it back before I post it, and I'm going to post it, I mean, um, but I don't know. Long story short, I've struggled, and it's a struggle every single day for me, and it's hard every single day for me, and I fight it every single day. And I've had to try to get better on my own without any real support, and I try to stay better on my own every single day without any real support. And that's not a dig at my family. It's pretty much what I stated earlier. It's so easy for people to become wrapped up in their own lives, but I've never had someone that's gone out of their way to understand mine. So if you're really looking on how you can help someone, that's the best advice that I can give you, is educate yourself. Take time out of your struggles in your life and what you're dealing with, and learn. Learn what they're going through the best way that you can without going through it yourself, and be there for them. Because I truly, I do believe, I feel bad saying that, but I do believe that if I would have had that, I wouldn't have struggled as long as I had, or it wouldn't have taken me as long to find the right resources and help. And those are resources and help that I had to try to find on my own. Knowing I didn't want to get better, knowing I didn't feel I should get better, knowing I didn't deserve to get better, knowing I didn't want to let it go, knowing all that. So, I don't know. That's pretty much it. So, I'm just going to cut it off here. But, yeah. So, a couple do's, a couple don'ts, a couple things that would have helped, things that wouldn't have helped. Tiny bit about my story. Not really the right place for it, but eating disorders are a very serious thing. They're Seeing and hearing other people struggling is something near and dear to my heart. It's something I will always advocate for, whether I am still sick and relapsed or whether I am in full-blown recovery. I will always hope for other people to not be in the position that I'm in. I will always hope that they're able to have the resources and the finances to and the support to get the help that they need. So that is it. And yeah, so if you have any questions or anything like that, I'm very knowledgeable on the subject, not just from personal experience, but from years and years and years and years of research and college research, and just trying to make myself the most educated that I can on it. So if you have any questions or any just comments, feel free to message them to me on Facebook or leave them to me on YouTube or whatever the case may be. So thanks for watching if you've actually made it until the end, because it's like a 25-minute video, and that's pretty much it. Thanks.